Oh, this looks great. You know, I'm really excited about our show today. I grew up fishing these smaller reservoirs and smaller lakes, and some of my fondest memories have really been on these smaller lakes. Today, as I fish tournaments and travel around, most of the fishing that I do are on the larger reservoirs, the Toledo Bends and the Lake Okeechobees. But some of the best fishing in the country are on these private lakes, and there's literally thousands and thousands of them all over the country. And some of the bigger fish that I've caught personally have been out of these smaller lakes. So I'm really excited about our show today. I think we're going to have a good show. I think we may have an opportunity to catch a big fish or two. Who knows, we may both learn something. I'm Hank Parker.
Today, bass fishing in beautiful sunny Florida. And later, we'll join Hank and his dog Knight in setting out some duck decoys in North Carolina. Also today, we'll travel to the Arbuckle Mountains of Oklahoma and see how Jerry Hagee and his team keep an unexpected snowstorm from becoming life-threatening to the exotic animals at Arbuckle Wilderness.
Well, guys, it hit. Understand that we've got a wind chill of what, minus 45 degrees? That's 45 below zero, and you know what that means to some of our animals. Dan, you're taking charge of the animals and throughout the whole compounds.
Right.
Okay, take care of them. Rick, you're running the team on the water breaking?
Right.
Ice breaking? Okay. Understand, what's the thickness of the ice?
4 inches.
4 inches. It'll probably refreeze in about an hour. So you want to break a good hole so they can have water. Tom, you're taking where?
South Canyon.
South Canyon country. You'll have snow drifts 6 feet deep. They really will. You'll not be able to get through there even with 4-wheel. Okay. Get in there, and if we've got any straggling animals, anything that needs some heat, let's bring it into these heated barns and get them in. Let's make sure that we're on 24-hour call. Every team, every person, around the clock. We've got to take care of them. Let's get after it. Come on. Well, what you see today is something that's very unusual for these Arbuckle Mountains, and that's snow, all of this white stuff. We've had 2 days of blizzards. It looks like we're forecast for 2 more. We have 12 inches of snow on the ground. And for many of our animals, that means some special problems that we need to take care of, and to be out in the field taking care of these animals. And yet for some of our animals, this is like a summer season. For example, these Tibetan yak over here, this is their best day.
One, two, three, four.
The house needs painting, the grass needs mowing. Where's he at?
Hi, this is Hank. Sorry I missed your call. Leave me your name and your number and I'll get back to you.
He's gone fishing.
This is Hank Parker's Outdoor Magazine, featuring the first sportsman to win both the Bassmasters Classic and the title Bass Angler of the Year, Hank Parker.
What is in that brush, that bright sun? Up here, big boy. Well, that's not a Florida largemouth. Florida largemouth's supposed to weigh 10 pounds. I don't think he'll quite make 10. Maybe in about 9 more years. The fish are holding really tight to structure. I guess it's bright sun, middle of the day fishing. I'm not used to all this sun. This is back on a summertime pattern. It don't seem like Christmas. Let me tell you where we are today. We're down at Amelia Island Plantation here in northern part of Florida. I mean, a fabulous place. They have got all kinds of fishing. They got tarpon fishing, drum fishing, freshwater bass fishing for their guests. Bicycle trail's a great place for a vacation. Today we're fishing in their lake here that's full of good largemouth bass. Just right on the other side of this is a river that runs through that they catch a lot of red bass, sea trout, and various species of saltwater fishing. A really great place. I think it's one of the prettiest places that I've ever been. If I can just get their fish to cooperate with me now. Little grass, I'm gonna try a spinnerbait. Little willow leaf spinnerbait works real well in the grass. You know, that's the difference between a willow leaf type blade versus a standard Colorado or even an Indiana. A spinner blade, you can fish a willow leaf and bring it through that grass. Whereas with your Colorado, a rounder type blade, it tends to hang up. These blades are shaped, that's why I guess it's called a willow leaf. It's shaped just exactly like a willow leaf. These blades will come through the grass, whereas a Colorado type or a round type spinner blade will hang up. A really neat blade to use in the grass. It also puts out a lot of vibration. I like that gold color too in this real alkaline, brackish type water. So I just threw that spinnerbait right up there and actually hung it up in the grass, but that blade comes right through with pretty little headwater in this area. It's kind of a little arm comes in here. Where it ends, got a lot of weeds backed up here. Should be a super area. Boy, it looks good. You know, that's one thing about these smaller lakes or ponds or creeks or whatever. There's so much good-looking cover. You think there should be a fish under every piece of structure that you see. It keeps you pumped up. I mean, it just, everything you see just looks like a big fish. I get really excited fishing these kind of waters. And that's one thing too, you know, that's always an added incentive for me when you know, boy, any cast may be that fish you've been looking for all your life, just any cast. And that really keeps you going. And some days when you're not catching the numbers, is the day you'll catch that big fish. So, keeps you pumped up all day long. Spinnerbait may not get to him. They may be, it's getting pretty late in the day. Maybe tucked up underneath those weeds. I'll have to flip him out of there. You know, until the flipping technique was used several years ago, or at least for me, I didn't have any way to fish this kind of structure. I'd just kind of fish around the edge like I did with a spinnerbait, and that was pretty well it. If the fish weren't aggressive or the fish weren't on the outside of the grass, you just kind of bypassed it. But with the flipping technique, you can just take a plastic worm or a jig or some type of weedless bait and drop it right down through the holes of the grass and fish under the structure before that you would be bypassing. And that's some of the most productive cover that I've fished since I've started using the flipping technique. I've caught a lot more big fish than I ever caught before. Rarely will you get a big fish to come out unless it's early in the morning or unless they're on the feed. You'll get them to come out after a bait. But with the flipping technique, you can take it to where he's at. You can put it right there in the thicker part of the structure. And he don't have to move very far for the bait, and it's natural. Catch a lot of big fish with flipping technique. And they're pretty well unmolested fish. There's very few people that are using this technique on most of the lakes. And so you're getting a fish water that is kind of undisturbed because nobody else is using the technique that will get to them. Just kind of drop that bait down through those little holes. And you know, I have seen this fish so tight in the cover before that they wouldn't even be at the holes. You'd have to take a heavier lead and drop it down through the weeds or the aquatic growth where there wasn't any holes. The fish would be so tight, they wasn't around any light at all. Oh my Lord, man, I have got a giant. He got me wrapped up, but he is a giant. Oh man, oh no. God. All right. Man alive, I ain't believing that fish. Yeah. Hey, baby dog. Oh. All right. That fish, I'm telling you, he got me wrapped in that structure. I didn't think I was gonna get him out. That is a fat fish. I mean a healthy fish. I'll tell you what, that is a good one. All right. Oh man, I'm telling you what, I love it. I love it. I almost turned around. I came down here and this construction work going on. All the noise that just kind of bothered me. I liked all the nature scenes. I started to turn around. I saw this good-looking shoreline. I thought, well, I better come try it. Boy, it was an extremely strong fish. I mean, I love it. I feel a lot better at going into a commercial break after a fish like that.
All right, Dan, I see you got that load of hay. Tom just called on the radio, said he needs another 30 bales in the South Canyon area. Okay, let me ride over there with you and let's see what's happening. Okay.
Next, we'll see what goes on behind the scenes at Arbuckle Wilderness when unexpected weather conditions threaten the safety of some of the world's most amazing animals. And still to come, how to effectively put out those decoys with the help of the masked boatman and Knight, the wonder dog.
At last, the ultimate in fish-finding technology, Humminbird's LCR liquid crystal recorder, the depth sounder that bridges the gap between flashers and charts, combining the best features of both. Now the most advanced concepts in sonar are combined with state-of-the-art microcomputer innovations to bring boaters and fishermen more features and more fish-finding versatility than any other depth sounder on the market. LCR, the creation of a new generation from Humminbird.
There are 3 ways you can try moving closer to these fish. With a gas outboard, with a noisy electric, or with a quiet Minn Kota electric. To a fisherman, the choice is black and white. Minn Kota, the quiet power that catches fish.
At Ranger, people are important. People like Garland Hurst and Randy Hopper that have helped build every boat. That kind of experience is hard to beat. Because we fish, we listen to our friends who own Ranger boats. Their ideas frequently are the best ones. Most of our boats are still being used, and we've been building them over 15 years. That Ranger quality goes into each boat we build, one boat at a time.
You know, Arbuckle Wilderness is the most fascinating wild animal park in America. So let's go over and take a look and see what Jerry Hagee's got for us today.
Good job, guys, good job. Okay, bring that Addix on up here. Be real careful. Let's don't get anyone hurt. Let's don't get that animal hurt. What's going on right now is they found out in one of these snow drifts an Addix from Israel is where they're primarily from the desert area of Israel. An unusual thing about this Addix is that fortunately, it turns brown in the winter, and then when it sheds this winter hair, it'll be snow white, just as white as this snow. Good job, guys. Well, he doesn't look too bad.
No, he's still playing stout.
How old's this one, Dan?
About a year and a half.
Yeah, he's got good gum color, that's fine. Let me see him walk a little. All right, yeah, we don't have anything frozen. Let me check back hoof. Okay, hold him. Easy. Okay, good job. Watch out, he'll kick you to death. Okay, guy, up on your feet. Let's see what it looks like. Walk him around a little. Where'd you find him?
Down in a canyon down there.
Okay. I think you ought to put him in that heated shed. What do you think?
Okay.
All right, let's take him in there.
All right.
Let's move on. Come on, guy. Let's go. Nice going. Let's move him on. A1, go ahead.
Yeah, Jerry, just wanted to report in on the feeding situation. I believe we've got all the bases covered. We've put out plenty extra hay, extra feed, and all the compounds.
10-4, did you take care of the big South Canyon area?
10-4, found no animals there. Everything seems to be under control.
10-4, we'll meet back at the warming hunt in about 15 minutes. Why don't you go ahead and gather up the guys, tell them a good job, and I'll see you there in about 15 minutes.
10-4.
Well, Dan, I see you've knocked some holes in this ice. Let's go ahead, and why don't you knock a hole in right here? It looks like we need one more right here. You know, it's very important, the things that we're doing here today, and as you've seen, we've got the feed distributed now. We've got some holes knocked in some ice throughout with the teams working on that. We've rescued even a stray animal or two. And it's very important. This ice, as you can see, is approximately 4 inches thick, as you can see it here between my black gloves. And this gives us a very special problem today. One of the main problems, of course, is the animals dehydrating if they don't have fresh water. They lose less body heat by getting a drink of water than they do eating snow that melts. Also, if one of the heavier animals, such as a Cape buffalo or some of the larger animals, stepped out on this ice today, and they walked out on this pond hunting fresh water, they'd step right through this. This wouldn't support their weight, and if they went through the ice, then of course we'd lose the animal. We couldn't get it out in time. That's why it's so very important that we get this ice, holes knocked in it throughout this entire park area, so that animals can have a place to drink without going out on the ice hunting water. For example, you can see two animals that have come out of the woods to get fresh water on these holes that we've chopped in the ice. We have closest to us a fossil water buck, and right next to him is one of the Tibetan yak that have moved down to this watering hole. It is very important that these animals have fresh water. Keeps them from dehydrating. It helps keep the body heat in that they'd lose if they ate fresh snow. Well, we've put out grain, we've chopped holes in the ice, and even under these hostile conditions, things go on just like they would if it were the normal day in the sunny side of the Arbuckles.
So I used to try and isolate my decoys always, put pintails with pintails and blacks with blacks, and try and put so many hens and so many greenheads together. I don't pay a bit of attention to that anymore. I found it don't make a bit of difference to the duck.
Next, Hank gives some tips to putting out that spread of decoys successfully. So don't go away.
The jigging pig and the plastic worm. You know, it's two of the most popular baits on the market today. And there's probably 100 different plastic worms and jigs available, but two of my favorite are man's auger tail, the worm that swims in the middle, the flipping waggler, a plastic worm that has more action on the fall than any bait I've ever used, and Stanley's tricolored jig trail with man's auger frog. Probably the deadliest big fish combination available. Now, I've put these lures together along with the Fenwick 20 satchel box to make them available to you on a Hank Parker Outdoor Magazine special offer. Let me show you what I put together. The Fenwick 20 has an amber lid that is see-through. You have adjustable dividers and positive drawdown latches making the box waterproof. We have two 20 packs of man's flipping wagglers, two 20 packs of FS 454 coated auger tail worms, two Stanley jigs, one with a Magnum flipping hook, the other with a lightweight casting hook for light line use, and a pack of auger frog trailers, my favorite trailer. This is the finest fishing value I know of anywhere today.
Hank's Lure Pack and Tackle Box can be yours for only $19.95 plus shipping and handling. Send check, money order, or call toll-free.
Order yours today. Probably gonna have to move that blind, move it down here a little bit closer to the water's edge. This water is so low, it falls. It's on full winter pool right now, and it falls about 3 or 4 feet a year in the summer, and then in the wintertime, they'll pull it down 8, 9 feet like you have here. And the ducks really like this area here better when the water's up in those bushes, but unfortunately, we can't keep the water in the bushes when we got the ducks. Well, I'll tell you what, Put just a few more in this hole here on the point. I'm gonna move over. I'd a whole lot rather place decoys in my waders than I had out of a boat. Just seems like I do a lot better job. This water's so deep right here. This little channel's about 10 feet deep, and I don't have enough string on these decoys, so I gotta put them a little bit tighter than what I'd like to. I'd like to spread them out a little bit, even though I wanna keep that pothole open. I don't like for my decoys to hit. I think that's a real deterrent when the wind blows and they bump together. Pintails, boy, they get caught up in the bag. You know, one thing about plastic decoys versus corks, you got to be real careful placing corks. Plastic, you can just throw them and they'll always stand upright. You can put plastics out in about half the time you can corks. I'll leave that little pothole open. It looks pretty good. I got one floating off. I'll just pick it up when I get through. Before you ever jump out of the boat, you better know how deep it is. Of course, this water's pretty clear and I can see the bottom. This is kind of a hazardous little place to put out decoys and waders because there's a definite ditch and creek over here. And if you're not careful, you can fall in it. Now, this is, to me, the most critical point of putting out decoys is where your spread is. I like to have a good hole for my ducks to sit in. And like here, we got the wind. The wind we got right now seems to be kind of kicking out of the west. So our ducks are going to set down into the wind. They always set into the wind. So if I set my blind right here and I put my decoys out from here back, then that means the ducks are going to want to sit down right here, which will be perfect for me to shoot. So when I put the decoys out, I always put them out according to the wind, and I watch the wind. And the way that wind's blowing here, it'll be a perfect spread to put my decoys out here and then leave the hole open right here. What they'll probably do is they'll light just outside, or try to light. I'm not going to let them light, but they'll try and light just outside of where I got my decoys on this point. So I'm going to put these decoys kind of tight to try and discourage them from being out too far. At the same time, I do want to get them far enough out from the bank that I got a good silhouette that I can see, or the ducks can see the decoys from a long way. See, I got two decoys floating off, and that's what you get when you try and put them out with 6 foot of cord next to 12 foot of water. You know the mistake most hunters that I hunt with, the most common mistake that I see them make and that I used to make myself, is putting the decoys too far away from the blind. A decoy will help hide you, but it'll also ruin you if it's too far away from you. What I mean is, when the decoys are too close to the blind, the ducks are more apt to see you. As they watch that blind, as they watch those decoys and your blind's right there, any movement or as you call, if you're shaking your leg, a lot of times I look down when I'm calling and I'll be shaking the side of the blind. If your decoys are real close to you, ducks are more apt to see that. The further away the decoys are from the blind, the less apt they are to see you. But when they're too far away from the blind, you never know how a duck's going to swing. Now, you can blow the call and you can guide him in, but sometimes they're going to sit down on the outside of those decoys. So I recommend never put your decoys out of range. I don't care what. I always keep my last decoys at least 15 or 20 yards in my range in the event the ducks sit down on the outside of them. And that's a big mistake, to put those decoys too far out, and it's very commonly done. I used to do it all the time. And one thing that I have found, you cannot really put out too many decoys. Now, there's some situations where you don't need to put out 50 or 60 or 75 or 100 decoys, but when you're hunting big water like this, you can't put out too many. In a little creek or a bay, or you're in an area you know those ducks are coming, you're in their feeding pocket, and you don't have any competition with other ducks, then you can get away with just a dozen or so decoys. But when you're hunting out on the big water and you're trying to draw some attention, or you're trying to compete against other ducks in an area, then you need to put out some decoys. Well, I think, Bud, if we'll move that blind down here a little closer to the water, we got a pretty good looking spread. I'm gonna let you out on the bank. Come on, Ike. Come on. Come on. Come on. That water's cold. I better get the boat. I think I'll move the blind a little bit closer to the water and go pick up those 2 floaters, park the boat, and we're ready to hunt, old buddy. Looks good. Looks good. Just like Kool-Aid. All you gotta do is add water.
Go for it with Ryobi. Tough, dependable reels for any kind of fishing. Ryobi. There's never been a better reason to go fishing.
Ron, this is the only lure that'll catch fish on this lake. I got half of mine not to let you fish it because you don't have extra strong trilene on that reel. Don't lose it.
The only place this lure is going is down a big old hog's throat. Uh-oh.
Doggone it, Ron, I'm going to show you why you need trilene. It's up to 20% stronger. It's the line the tournament pros use, and it's the line that set 400 world records in just 12 months.
The revolutionary fish formulas are used by the world's best fishermen. Enough said?
Now that I got the decoys out, it's turned into a bluebird day. So I'm gonna go out here and join these other guys and go fishing. Thanks for being with me today. God bless you. I'm Hank Parker.
Hank Parker's Outdoor Magazine, sponsored by Fish Formula. We fool Mother Nature. Humminbird Depth Sounders. Minn Kota, quiet power catches fish. Ranger Boats, we still build them one at a time. Ryobi, there's never been a better reason to go fishing. And by Trilene, extra strong.
The house needs painting, the grass needs mowing. Where's he at?
Hank, this is Tom. You told me to call you when they're biting. They're biting.
Gone fishing.